Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing well. So, for tonight's show, I have a really interesting individual and as well as a fantastic guitar player and musician. I have with me Brian Spalding. For those of you that don't know, Brian Spalding was a musician, still is a musician, but early on in his career, he was part of that whole 80s LA scene and has rubbed shoulders with a lot of the guitar players and musicians that we still love and admire to this day. And he's just got, I mean, the guy's an encyclopedia of stories. And so I don't want to waste any more time. I want to bring Brian in and let's get right to it. There he is. Play my theme music. Wow, man, that was quick. You learned my theme music.
Yeah, I just got to hear it once.
That's a first. Awesome. So how you doing, Brian?
Good, I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad, man. So I want to get right into this because I got a feeling this hour is absolutely going to fly right by. So let's go right to the beginning. When did you start playing? When was your first? What first sparked your interest in music, and specifically, what first got you interested in playing the guitar?
Okay, so I had a really typical way of getting into music here in Hawaii. When you're in Hawaii, a lot of children at a very young age play the ukulele, right? When you're
Okay.
young, they put a ukulele right in your hands. Even when I was in elementary school, that's what we did. We had music time, and everybody got a ukulele, and you played with the teacher. So that's where it started. And so, you know, my mom played the ukulele. My cousins played the guitar and ukulele. So everybody played some kind of instrument. And we did Hawaiian church songs, things like that. But, uh, I'm always the kind of person where I like something that's different away from what everybody else wants to do or what everybody else likes. So I spent a lot of time on the ukulele learning like melodies from commercials and stuff on TV.
Oh, cool.
And eventually I learned some jazz music off of my dad's jazz record collection. You only know what you got in the pile of records that's at home. So
Mhm.
I spent a lot of time learning some stuff,
And you're
especially off.
playing this. You're playing this on the ukulele still?
Yep, yeah, because I didn't have a guitar until I was my aunt's acoustic guitar. I didn't get my hands on that until I was 16, about that age.
Wow.
So I hadn't touched a guitar yet. But I was having fun playing like breezing and 6 to 4 and affirmation from George Benson's Breezing album
On a ukulele.
on a ukulele. Yeah.
That
So I think
was
I made a mistake right there because I should have continued with that. I would have been like Jake Shimabukuro today, or maybe 10 years, 20 years ago.
That's amazing. Well, obviously you knew that you had an ear very early on. If you're able to pick stuff up like that and be able to transfer it to an instrument,
Yeah, yeah. So it was really easy for me. So yeah, even
that's
today I'll listen to. In fact, there's some movies that I really like where I'll grab the guitar. Oh man, that score right there sounds really good, and I'll start playing it.
that's amazing. Let me just say hello to a few people before we really get deep here. Sandra's with us. Thank you so much, Sandra,
Hey, Sandra.
for, for modding and doing all the amazing stuff that you do. Mitch Heyman is with us. Laz,
Hey,
nice to
Mitch,
see you.
Les.
Zim's Guitars. Hey man, how are you? Gene Schmidt has joined us. Charles Green, how are you, man? Six String Brian, Brian S., Daniel Horsley, Papa Blue. Welcome, everybody. Dan in New Jersey, Rick Hefner, Half Ace. Just going down. Lars Guitars, nice to see ya. The Falcro, how are you? Alan Robinson, awesome. Thanks everybody for joining us. We got a lot of territory to cover here tonight. So you said the first guitar was how old were you when you picked up?
16, 17, about that age.
Now because
Um,
you're playing ukulele, how easy was that to transition from that ukulele to the guitar?
it was pretty easy. You just got more strings to touch on, and then you just find the notes that make up the chords. And
Right.
then a buddy of mine's let me borrow his Kiss Alive 2, I believe it was, music book, right? So, and it had all the chords in there. All you need is three chords,
Right. Oh, for Kiss, yeah.
and you can rock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was before I was even into rock music, though, everything was all about jazz fusion because my aunt who let me borrow her guitar, she was the one that turned me on to Lee Ritenour and Al Di Meola and David Spinoza, Roy Buchanan. Who else was it? I even
Wow.
got turned on to Chet Atkins and Les Paul and
Oh,
Murray
wow.
Ford back in the early days.
So if
Earl
you're looking to
Clue.
play their stuff, then the rock stuff must have been like almost a walk in the park.
Right. And for me, um, it really wasn't about rock and roll or jazz or anything like that. It was just, the interest was pretty much find melodies on the fretboard and then
Hmm.
see if you can do it right.
Right, right,
That
right,
was
right,
that was the fun part for me. So, and my friends were all into rock music, and I really wasn't into that stuff. And they would kind of tease me if my friend drove an old Toyota with a really nice Blaupunk stereo in there, and
right,
everybody would be passing the Boston or the REO Speedwagon, and I'd chip in my Larry Carlton's cassette tape, and they'd be
right.
like, "I don't want to listen to that."
That's funny. So when did the band start with you?
Oh, the band stuff. Well, um, I had some friends that were in high school that had a little band together, and I joined up with them. We did some jamming, and I had some early rehearsals inside of a tool shed that we
Mm,
rehearsed at. That
right,
was like my earliest times, and then after that, you start to know people. You get to know folks in the music scene.
right,
Um, Eventually, some really good friends that I discovered over time. We put together. Well, I didn't put it together, but I joined the band. The band was called Aaron's Rod at the time, and I believe that was like in 1980, 81,
okay.
82.
So you sent me a bunch of photos,
Right,
and I believe one of the photos you sent me was of that band. Okay, so is it
right.
Aaron's?
That's the one.
Okay, here we go. Okay, can
So
everybody
this,
see that? Okay, cool. You can see that. All right, so let me make that a little bit bigger. So,
this is the third version of the band after we moved to Los Angeles. But if you go backwards,
okay, let me grab another photo then. Yeah.
I'm not too sure if you arrow back, will it follow the right order? That's
Probably
George.
not. No, the
That's
George
George. You can
pictures.
go back some more. Go back. You can go back some more.
This
Yeah,
left.
go back in that direction. Wait,
There's
one
our
more.
again.
You're right. Okay, so that's the band. We ended up with a Roadrunner Records contract,
Mm-hmm.
and we recorded our first album. So if you move one photo over to the right, Uli Scar guitar. Yeah, so that's the back of the album.
Oh, cool. Okay. So at this point, you're in LA, right?
No, we're still in Hawaii. We're doing
Oh,
gigs.
wow.
At that time, I was working at a music store and playing, working at the music store during the day, and then playing gigs at night on what were called booze cruises. So there's a lot of top 40 stuff, and a lot of tourists would jump on the boat and eat and get drunk, and we were the entertainment at the time. So, but
Oh, great.
along with that, we had opportunities to open up for some really large acts because when you're in Hawaii, there's only like a couple of rock bands that existed. Uh, and at the time, it was our band, and then another band called Sacred Right, and then another band called Hawaii, which Marty Friedman was in. Actually,
Oh,
Marty taught guitar as well as I did. I shouldn't have been teaching guitar, but I was teaching guitar at the music store. Uh,
all right.
but
Let me get to some. You've got some shots here with Marty.
Yep. Anyway, so that's Marty. He's actually performing on stage at my high school, and this is back in 1981, I believe. And he's with his band Hawaii.
Oh, he was in Hawaii. Okay,
Yep.
his band.
And he had a previous band to that. His other two bands before that was Vixen was his other band, and then before that it was Deuce, and Deuce was out in what was it, Maryland? I hope I'm getting it right. I don't want him to get mad at me if he sees this.
And there you are with Marty.
Yeah, we're at the Jason Becker's show. I played with Full Metal at that show, and then Marty played later.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Very
But
cool.
yeah, we've been friends for a super long time, and I got to know Marty because somebody turned me on to him about teaching because I'm a Uli fan, right? I'm a Uli John Roth fan.
Yeah, we'll get to
Marty,
the yeah.
yeah, Marty is a Uli John Roth fan too. When I heard about him teaching and stuff, I'm like, oh man, I got to see this guy. Yeah, and this was about 1981. So I go over to his place. His parents had a house with an extension on it, and he lived in the extended part of the house. And so I went over there, and I was expected to take some lessons, and then we were both trading licks and then talking Uli stuff. And then after the 45 minutes, he was like, man, forget about the lessons. Let's just jam. So we were both like really digging into Uli's Electric Sun music and even some of the early Scorpions. But yeah, we were trading licks, and back then his guitar playing was just flawless. His arpeggiations, his use of chord melodies, and the ability to play the specific notes under the chords that are happening at the time, much like a jazz player.
Right.
It was already there during those days. So to
Wow.
me, Marty was already really good back then. So I
Right.
remember
Right.
we did some gigs together, and when you're setting up on stage and warming up, I would be on one side of the stage with my amp turned on, and he'd be on, and he'd be shredding away, and some of the arpeggiation sequences that he was running was like so clean and so interesting with his turn on the Japanese style or note choices, put it that way, and his half note bending and things like that.
Wow.
Um, uh, and that stuff was learned over time because when I used to go to his apartment, because like on the weekends, maybe we'd get together and jam at his apartment all day, and we'd bust out the traditional Japanese music records and then throw that on the turntable and start stealing licks from that stuff.
Holy shit.
Isaac Stern's one comes to mind is Isaac Stern's Japanese Melodies album. We could wear that album out because that one had like all kinds of interesting Japanese music on there. But yeah, you could learn a lot from that. But yeah, I soaked up a lot of that stuff. I learned it and I incorporated inside of my playing too. it may not sound Japanese, but a lot of the scales that you find in some of the Japanese music, you can actually incorporate it, into your own playing. Because of course they're, what I mean, like the fretboard, everything's already known what goes on the fretboard and who's playing what. But
Right.
um, you could steal lines from that and then throw it in your stuff. And some of them may be more familiar than others, and some may cross over into jazz.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, jamming with Marty was so much fun.
Wow.
And I'll tell you this story. When the Cacophony album came out, actually cassette tape. A friend of mine's let me borrow his cassette tape, and that was the first time I heard the Cacophony record. So we got it in the stereo, listening to it, and there's some songs like, what was it called? Something Symphony, Metal Symphony, something like that. And during that song, there's a bunch of riffs in there. It's like, hey, wait a minute! I remember we used to fool around with those riffs back in the day at his apartment. So apparently, at that time, he had some riffs that he had stashed,
Right.
or in his within his mind. I'm sure that's what it was, because clearly they showed up on the tape.
That's amazing. So you could, I guess, from what you're saying, you could kind of tell early on that this guy was gonna, he
Yeah.
was bound to be
Oh
Marty.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's bound to be the person he is today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So let me get back to some of these photos here.
Right.
Um, Now George Lynch. So
Oh yeah.
how
So what happened was that, when you're in Hawaii, of course, and bands come over, when the big bands come over, um, they'll have either their own opening act, or they'll employ one of the bands, like maybe my band, to open up for the show. And the place that you do it at is called the Blaisdell Arena. So this is a later photo of George, but there's an earlier one where he's playing my guitar.
Yeah, yeah. Let
Back
me dig that one out. Let me dig. I think I know the one you're talking about. Let me dig that one out. I think I came across it
that
earlier.
that's my wife in the middle, by the way.
Yeah, I figured that was your wife.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. All right, let me go this way. Before we go there. What can you tell me something about this photo here? Is this your band? Is this
So this is the Aaron's Road Band version 3, and that's at Gazari's on the Sunset Strip.
oh, okay.
And I don't know who we were opening for, or maybe that was our show. Some good times though. Yeah, playing in Hollywood was pretty interesting. Especially back in the day, the streets would be crowded with folks milling around, and everybody would be handing out flyers for their bands. All the clubs would be open. Um, it would just like be like thousands of people on the strips, uh, on the Sunset Strip, and you could go and see groups like White Lion, or or I remember Doug Aldrich had his band Lion that was performing during that time.
Was Motley Crue around at this point, or is this before or after Motley Crue?
Oh, this is after.
Oh, this was after Crew. Okay, so
Yeah,
they were,
yeah.
and Halen was long gone already. They're already big. Yeah.
Right. By this time, this is 1988, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is like the second wave of LA bands.
Right. The second wave, and so we were part of that whole second wave, and
Mhm.
even though those were good times, you could kind of tell that things are gonna come to an end and change for that type of music,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
because
were, yeah,
it was just an oversaturation. Our music was more modeled against the Scorpions style, so we're more into the European style of metal.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, your love for Uli, right?
Right, right.
So, oh, here we
So
go. Is this
there's
a photo?
Yeah, so back in the day, the big bands would come over and play, and this gig was this is at a little nightclub. So this was the after party. So we would play these after parties after the big concert of the evening, right? That
Right.
happened at the Blaisdell Arena. So this night was Dio was the main act and Dawkins was the opening act. And there may have been a local group that played before, but I don't remember. But at the time, we were scheduled to do the after party uh, at this club called the Junction. Um, and so Dio and his band and Dawkins and that whole crew came to the Junction and hung out. And Dio was set up in a little green room in the back,
Hmm.
and uh, and we would all just talk story, hang out, and party. And there was a point in the night where, of course, there's some jamming that was going to happen, and then George and Vivian got up on stage and played. And the funny thing is, that even before the little jam session, George came up to me and he asked me, he whispered in my ear, he goes, "Hey man, who's got the closest action? Whose guitar's got the closest action?" And I said, "My guitar." My friend Neil had a gold Strat at the time, and he was a really good blues player. He was a big Billy Gibbons fan, so
Right.
he had a really nice kind of beat up Strat, but it was a vintage Strat, and that guitar, of course, had higher action than mine did. So George was like, "Yeah, man, when we jam, I'm gonna play your guitar. Let Vivian have the crappy one."
All right. So you mentioned
That was
Dio.
funny.
So man, I gotta ask you about Dio because
Yeah.
I absolutely love Dio. I
Oh
still
yeah.
think
Yeah.
Dio's like my favorite era of Black Sabbath. I get shit for this, but it's the Dio era, hands down. So you got to first of all, I mean, you hung out with him at in the
Yeah.
green room, right?
Hmm.
So like, what were your impressions of Dio? How was he as a guy, as a performer? Of course, everybody knows how awesome he was, but just as a guy to hang out with, how was Dio?
Uh, Dio was kind of like Gandalf from Lord of the Rings kind of person. Um, like a combination of that and a college professor. I would say that's what would sum up Dio for me. The guy was so smart and so um, knowledgeable about all kinds of different things,
Right.
and a lot of it, centered on life. You know, being in the position that he was and playing with all the bands that he had been playing. His
Yeah.
his 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 stories uh, of all those days, really made for, from what I look at it, as like this professor that kind of can teach you about life and the good and the bad things,
Yeah. Well,
and
at that point,
how to conduct yourself as a person.
yeah.
Be a good person. I mean, he was really well grounded.
Yeah,
Um,
like at that point, he'd already. I mean, Elf, Rainbow. He'd already been in Sabbath, right? Like, yeah, he.
yeah. And you got to understand, when I'm sitting there talking to him and he's like a foot away from my face and we're having a discussion, it's like I'm I'm there, but then I'm not, because the other side of me, right?
Yeah,
My other side of me is in the background going, "Holy shit, you're talking to Dio."
yeah,
This is amazing.
yeah,
So like some of his words might drift by because I wouldn't catch it because I'm just amazed that I'm even sitting in the same little room talking to this guy.
yeah. The other guy got to ask you. Well, okay, was a whole band there? Okay, you mentioned
Yeah.
Vivian Campbell. So
Yep.
how's Vivian Campbell? Vivian Campbell always struck me as like just a really happy-go-lucky guy. I know
Oh yeah.
he had a falling out with Dio later on, but I don't think that was his character normally. But how would you describe Vivian Campbell?
Right. Vivian Campbell is, let's see, how can I say it? He, like, if you're just one on one with him, he's got a really cool accent, and a lot of the time it seemed like a Monty Python kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
Uh, the guy's funny, but in a dry sense of humor kind of style,
Right. Right.
and very happy. So so with Vivian, which I don't think I gave you the picture, but uh, he Dio came to Hawaii twice,
Right.
and
Oh,
on both occasions, what would happen is my boss at the time at the store that I worked at, by the way, it was called Hot Licks, and the guy that ran the store was a bass player, a really talented bass player called Howard Tsukamoto was his name, and so he by somehow by his connections he was able to get a hold of some people in high places in the music scene that could get a hold of these bands and ask if they would like to come over to our shop and then do like meet and greet. So we did that
okay.
with Vivian on both tours. You know, I'd be in the shop and Howard would be like, "Hey man, you guys got to go and pick up Vivian at so and so hotel." So we go over to the hotel and find Vivian sitting by the pool at the bar, having a bunch of drinks, which he had had already.
Right.
And so my friend Dan and I think Howard was there too. We went up to the bar and sat with him and chatted and I don't think I had a drink because I don't actually drink. I don't drink alcohol of any kind,
Right.
but we sat there and listened to his stories, and he talked about being excited to do the gig because I think he had never been to Hawaii the first time.
Hmm.
And well, the funny thing is that in the uh, in the hotel registry, he was registered under first initial I, last name is Rishman, Rishman.
Oh,
So
Irish.
that's how he, yeah, he was registered as that. And so we take him in our little Toyota over to Toyota sedan over to the Hot Lick shop, and then bring him up there, and then he'll do meet and greets, and be a whole line of people waiting for him to get up there and
That's
see
cool,
him
man.
and shake the hand of the man. But yeah, he's really great guy. And then the second time around is when things are kind of winding down in their relationship, and
Oh, deal.
Vivian is happy, but he was a little sad too. So I think soon after that, things fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the details on why they fell apart, but
Well, what I
you
understand
could
is
read
that
about it.
yeah,
Hmm.
what I understand is that Dio promised them, some money from the records once they made
Oh
it.
yeah,
He made it, and he didn't.
yeah.
Again, depending on who you listen to, Dio says, he says Dio kind of hoarded the money. Metalhead Hippie, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, Hippie.
Thanks, man.
I
Oh,
really appreciate Hippie, man. He's such a, I mean, that that guy's community, which you're a part of, right?
yep.
Does such an amazing thing for musicians. If you're already a practiced, semi-known or a known musician, or somebody that's just starting out, it's like his community is the perfect place to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm so thankful to have met the guy and become part of his community and be friends with everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, it's all part of, we're the idea, at least I'm just going to speak for myself, is like we all have this common interest, right? We all love music.
Hmm.
A lot of us play guitar, and some are better than others, but that doesn't matter. The fundamental thing is that we all love it and we all want to play it. And this should be a sort of a community where you shouldn't be afraid to like post a video because you're maybe not the best musician in the world, or or whatever, like, so everybody could kind of just sort of share and what share their joy, share what they enjoy, because
Hmm.
I know for myself there's not a lot of people I can sit down for an hour once a week and just talk music, because nobody's into this as much as I am, really, right? There's very few people.
Right.
So we all have that sort of common ground. So yeah, and hippie provides that platform for people who do put out stuff. Hey man, just I'll play it, man. Like and let's all support each other. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah,
At
that's
least
good.
you know from my
I like
perspective.
that.
Alrighty, so let's get see if I can find some more stuff here. All right, so there's George playing your guitar at that
Right.
part. Okay, there's your band. Oh, have you played this thing? For those of you that don't know, this is Uli's. He calls this the Sun guitar. Is that correct?
Sky.
Or
Sky
Sky?
guitar. And yeah. And
Sky.
they all have different names. This one is the latest of all of his Sky guitar models, and this one's called the Excalibur. This guitar is, I think, well, all of his guitars are pretty expensive, and there's a real reason why they're so expensive is because of the workmanship and the artistry. Each guitar is a piece of art,
Right.
and so for me, I mean, I like my guitar, but I'm the kind of person where like I I'm pretty rough on my guitar too. So there's a whole story with that I didn't get to on why I play guitar the way I play guitar. But anyway, getting back to Uli's guitar. So this guitar is called the Excalibur. This one's priced I think at 36,500.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the guitar's gold plated. The guitar's got auto tune embedded inside of it already. It's also got a lit uh, dots on the top of the fretboard. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you turned it to the side, all the dots on the fretboard would be lit up.
Right.
And the reason why you had to have that is because of his eyesight. When he's on stage and it's kind of dark, sometimes he would lose his place if he didn't couldn't see the
Mm-hmm.
dots. And I remember one time being in a van uh, with him before his show, and he was like, "Oh man, I can't see the dots on my guitar," so I had to take a sharpie and mark off the spots where the dots would have been, so that you could see. That was like in the earlier days, but yeah, this guitar. In fact, the jewel on the back behind the tremolo bridge.
Yeah.
Down's animated. It lights up, and then the lights inside of that cycle.
Oh
Same
wow.
thing with the rest of the lights on the neck, and then the knobs there.
A lot of knobs.
Yeah, a lot of multifunctional knobs, a lot of really um, really specific and really detailed changes in both mid-range, treble, bass, and volume. And you can mix and match all the pickups. So he's got like three pickups in there. If you can see, if you zoom in on the body where the pickups are.
All right, let me try doing that.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's good. So
There you go.
so the bridge pickup, and by the way, these pickups are individually powered by another source that's on the floor next to his pedal boards. Um, I don't remember what the power rating was on that, but uh, I can tell you in order to run this guitar, you have to have an extra an external power source to run it, and and you have to have the magnets have to be powered to in order to pull in the strings from underneath the fretboard. So you can see where normally we would call it the neck pickup is actually underneath the fretboard.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so those final frets that are headed towards the bridge are a whole tone apart.
Wow.
Before he had experimented, I believe, with having frets that got down to the minuscule, but it didn't work. So works great. The whole tone apart. It's not bad.
And
And
this is
so
a seven string, right?
yeah, seven string. Most of his guitars are seven strings. In fact, I have a difficult time playing any of his guitars uh, because of the scale and the way the frets are made. in order to get clarity on the strings when you hit the notes, you have to have kind of a high action. So the action on the guitar is it's not like you're not going to be able to. Well, I wasn't able to pull off comfortable legato runs
Right, right.
when it got past the 12th fret. But and the knobs that are on the top horn, uh, those are there's he's got effects, onboard effects tied to those. So he's got reverb and delay tied to and you can control that uh, through those knobs on the top part. So, and I think I'm going to be stepping out of line actually when it gets down to the details on these guitars because I don't know them that well. I would probably if I had purchased one, but I can't afford them. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but
So, I mean, Ema, there's no company making this. He's got some
no,
builder that does it for him, right?
at one time he was partnered with Dean at one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but most of the guitars are. Oh man, now I can't remember the guy's name. Boris something. Yeah, most of the guitars are they're one of a kind art pieces, pretty much.
Yeah, that is
And
some crazy guitar, man.
there is a lot of cost that goes into actually making a lot of man hours. So and oh, you know another thing is good is that tremolo, which I love it. I like that. Uh, well, I was never a Floyd Rose tremolo guy ever, anyway. So, but it's reminiscent of the old vintage um, Fender tremolos,
Yeah,
and you can pull up on it. It floats, so you can do a full up and down on that tremolo unit. And even that thing, I believe he's done a lot of modifications to make it perform better for his needs. You know, everything's geared for what he wants to how he wants the guitar to perform.
hmm
And you know, back in the old days, it was always his dream to be able to perform classical pieces on a guitar, and the Strat wasn't cutting it, and that's why the Sky guitar came about.
right.
And the great thing about this design is that S right there on the body, right, for Sky guitar.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy,
But
man.
yeah, I played a number of those guitars. The one that I like is called the Emperor, and that was a guitar he had back in like late 1979.
hmm
And the reason why I like that guitar is because it's a six string for one, and the action was pretty nice and like it was similar to my Les Paul, so I could actually play the thing.
Yeah, that helps.
And um, yeah, that was that one, and another one that's a white sky guitar called Bianca is one that I like. But yeah, interesting instruments. Really takes a lot of getting used to it, and has its own power source. And
Well, since we're
uh,
looking at Uli's guitar, so let's talk about Uli. So, and I'll see if I can get a photo up of you and Uli.
yeah,
So, how did that? There you go. How did that meeting happen?
so back in what was it 2004, Uli had been doing or started to tour the U.S. again. He hadn't toured the U.S. in like I don't know how long. I think it was like since 1982, something like that.
Right.
We actually played at the country club, and there's video of that. But he decided to tour the states, but playing his music, which was generated on computer. I think it was on a Mac, and he would have backing tracks that he would play over,
hmm
and he had a good friend that would manage the laptop, and I think he also had there were some keyboards involved too. But at that time, he was first starting to do a tour, and if I can back up just a little bit back to Los Angeles when we lived in Los Angeles, because at this time, my wife and I had already moved to in 2000s, because my wife and I had moved from Los Angeles to the Bay Area in the mid
Right.
90s. But but anyway, so I had made a bunch of friends there in Los Angeles. One of them, which I don't mean to drop his name, but it was Roy Z. I don't know if you know Roy Z. Roy Z's like uh, if you go and pick up Bruce Dickinson's solo albums, Roy Z's the producer and guitar player on that.
Oh, okay.
And he was also in Rob Halford's band, Halford, and he was the
Fight.
producer and writer on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But even before any of that stuff, I met Roy Z through a mutual friend. This guy Chris Lewengood, who was a writer, and he wrote for a lot of magazines in Europe. So anyway, uh, it was through him that I got to meet Roy. We would hang out at Chris's apartment. We would jam on guitar, and whose music were we like really into? Uli's music.
Right.
So Roy Z and I would be, we would be trading licks just like I did with Marty way back in
Marty.
the early '80s. I
Yeah.
did again the same thing with Roy Z, and so he was also at that first gig that Uli did at the Ventura Theater back in 2004. We were all excited little kids, just amazed to see Uli actually hitting the stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a fun time. But that was the first time we met Uli. Um, he had said, I believe back then, that he was going to be doing Sky Academy clinics. Um, and that I think took a couple of years till he actually was able to get the funding and actually do those Sky Academy classes, which the first one took place in Los Angeles. Um, oh, what was it? I can't remember the name of the school. Um, in, but anyway,
That's right.
that's where the first Sky Academy happened, and that's where we first really got to know Uli. At the time, it was a new beginning for him. Uh, Doing those classes was something new for him, so he had a bunch of friends that were helping him out,
Mm-hmm.
but they needed more help. And coming from Hawaii, my wife and I, we were always told that if there's anything that's happening, like a get together or something like that, you naturally jump in to help out and get stuff going and get the food cooked and get everything prepared,
Right.
that kind of thing. So the same situation, same mindset was what we had when we saw that Uli needed help, and
Mm-hmm.
so my wife got in there and uh, she started helping. At the time, Jeff was a manager and started helping out with getting people signed in, checked in, or helping with badges and things like that. So we helped out in the production of his Sky Academy thing. I think that's how we really got to know him from that point on. Um, the Sky Academy classes uh, were like I think they were like about at the time I thought they were expensive, but then when I found out how many other similar type clinics were happening and costing a lot more, it, $560 wasn't much to go to hang out with Uli for a week and
Now for a week, yeah,
learn
that's
from the
a bargain.
master. Yeah.
Bands are asking for $2,000 just for a meet and greet after a show or something. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're spending a week and you're learning something from the guy. That's
Right. So
that's
in it, so it was from the Sky Academy classes that that we really got to. My wife and I really got to know him deeply, and eventually became friends. And
and
it got to
eventually
it
got
got
to
to the point. It got to the point where he grabbed my wife's phone and then entered his phone number and say, "Here, let me put my phone number in your phone so you can get a hold of me whenever you need to."
right, right, and that I mean I cut you off there, but that
Yeah.
eventually led to you playing with Uli.
Yeah, so, besides doing the Sky Academy, in order to make his trip worthwhile, he would also simultaneously be doing shows.
Hmm.
Oh, this picture is of us at at the show in Musicians Institute in L.A. This is the Sky. this is a Sky Academy Orchestra, or the Sky Orchestra. So off to my left, there's like 12 other guitar players,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah,
Okay.
and we're all playing our parts in oh, what was that song? The Four Seasons. I think we're playing. I think we're playing the winter piece. I believe. I may be wrong, but we're playing a classical piece, and everybody has their parts. You know, some folks did the cellos, and others did the violins, and I did the violin section.
Right.
Um, and there was actually a cellist also off to the side of the stage too. And man, I forgot what his name was. Shoot, and he's a well-known musician as well, classical guy. And so yeah, this is all part of Uli's. Get this, this is all part of Uli's 5 to 6 hour show at Musicians Institute.
Holy shit.
And so he had like Paul Gilbert, Joe Stump, um, Robbie Krieger, um, uh, Mark Bowles was singing. I don't remember if Jeff Scott Soto sang. He might have. Um, my friend Steve Smythe from he used to be with Nevermore and Forbidden and Vicious Rumors back in the day. Um, oh, who else? See, I'm drawing a blank now. It was a lot of guitar players,
That's like a
and
who's who of LA musicians, man. Here's another
yeah,
shout.
yeah. Oh, so this is like my only claim to fame. This is my only picture that I have in the it's in the Guitar Player magazine. I forget what year it came out in, but
I can't make it any bigger than that, unfortunately. But
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's the only photo I got of myself in Guitar Player magazine. But
very cool.
yeah, but yeah, that's what Uli at Jason Becker's second Not Dead Yet concert. That was a fun night. Got to know Steve Morse,
Oh yeah.
uh, and he was an interesting guy. Um, he had an unusual way of talking, and I think he's always been like that because even when I watch his other videos, his interviews, he has a unusual way of talking. It was just different, but
Hmm.
great guy, super knowledgeable, very smart. And this is one of the Sky Academies. This is like the third one, I think. And this was held in Santa Monica, and I'm off there. I'm off to the right over there. My friend Kent and Uli and Kim Kaloria there, um, and a host of other people. That was a great time. A lot of things were revealed as far as Uli's guitar playing and music writing. Got a lot of gems out of that.
Oh, good. So it's worthwhile then. He's
Oh
not just
yeah,
okay.
no, these things are not like only on guitar, but they also have to do with life too, because he covers the entire gamut. From the color of sound to metaphysics to writing music to
Wow.
value of the notes, value of specific notes, um, the colors of the notes, and the mood that you want to generate from choosing specific notes. And I could relate in some of that because when I play guitar, I think of in fact when it comes to music writing too, I think um, of the guitar and playing the guitar not as a normal, or I couldn't say that, but I don't think of it normally. I think of it all as painting, like painting on a blank canvas.
Hmm.
For me, playing the guitar is finding the right colors and finding notes that are interesting and colorful enough. That's why I'm attracted to a lot of movie scores, things like that. Uh,
Right.
like I love the Lord of the Rings movie score. I like just as well as I like. People may laugh, but I like the movie score to the Planet of the Apes, the early ones back in the '70s. The movie score to that was pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Cecil B. DeMille movies. That movie score is interesting, but uh, I write and play guitar in colors. I don't play them in like a bunch of licks and 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 patterns and stuff like that. Like I look at the fretboard as just one whole piece, and you can go anywhere on the fretboard.
Well,
You just
that's the goal. That's what
yeah
everybody wants, right?
yeah you just jump to the targeted notes that you can think of in your mind that may come up, and you may come up with some interesting sequences.
That
But
yeah, that
anyway,
familiarity of it, right?
yeah.
So okay,
But
let me hang on here.
maybe some of the photos aren't coming through. So this is an Uli's tour bus.
Which
Uh,
this one?
yeah, that one. And that's not the Excalibur guitar. It's the one before that. He had the model before the Excalibur. That was also a fun night.
There we go. Here's a new
Oh,
one.
so on my left is with the pink bandana. That's Roy Z.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Roy's such a great guy. I mean, that guy is so accomplished too. He was a guitar prodigy too at a young age, and
Yeah,
he used to play with a band called Driver, which the singer is on the far opposite side, Rob Rock. He's based in Florida, I believe, and the person closest to me with the black bandana is Mark Bowles. Mark Bowles used to sing for Ingve back in the day. Another great person. All these people are so nice and so awesome.
that's cool, man.
I loved hanging out with them. Mark Bowles took us to breakfast one day. That was really generous of the guy.
That's cool
That guy's
because
got a big heart.
talented and they're good people to go along with it.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is my wife, and she's holding on to Liz Van Dahl, which is Uli's girlfriend, and that's Warren DeMartini. We're at a bar across from the Ventura Club, Club Ventura. Uli had just got done playing, and Warren joined Uli on stage. I think they I don't remember what song they played, but in fact, I remember that night. Oh man, what was his name? The singer. I can't remember the singer's name on
Floyd?
Michael Schenker's. Uh, um,
He's had a few singers.
yeah, I know. Oh, he also sang with Rainbow and on Ingve's No Parole for Rock and Roll.
Oh, Gray Bonnet.
Yeah, Graham Bonnet's band played that night too. But we're just hanging out at a bar across the street, having fun, and of course, I don't drink, but I don't think Dooley drinks either.
That's
But yeah,
cool. That's cool.
hanging out with Warren DeMartini. I discovered that night that he was a surfer, and I used to do the same thing. So we
All
had
right.
we had we had that in common. And his wife is really super nice too. Uh, some good times there.
So we're getting close to the hours. So I'm not being rude. I swear. I'm
Oh yeah,
looking.
yeah.
Let me explain. I'm looking at my phone for the chat because the StreamYard chat died on me like about 10 minutes ago.
Oh,
So the only way I can follow is looking at the show on my phone here. So we got about 5 minutes left here. I'm gonna open the floor for anyone that has any questions for Brian. I got a feeling this might be the part one to a part two because I think we're still just scratching the surface here. In the meantime, while people are thinking of questions, I just wanted to mention that I have a link to Brian's channel in the description below. Also, if you want to help support this channel and more shows like this, I have links to Guitar Hack merch like hats and shirts and mugs and all that kind of stuff below as well. There's also a PayPal down there. That would be very much appreciated. If you don't follow me on Facebook or Instagram or my email, everything is down there. If you need or would like to join I have a Guitar Hack group with, I think we've got quite a few people in there now sharing stuff. So yeah, feel free to join in the fun. Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye out for questions. So while I'm waiting for a question, you had a story for me about Rush.
Right.
What was your
So,
Rush
so,
story?
so like the after party we did for Dio and Dawkins, when Rush came to town, uh, we also did their after party as well. And
Okay.
the people that showed up at the bar at the club was uh, let's see, so Neil Peart was there,
Hmm.
and
Alex.
Alex was there. I hung out with Alex for a little bit. Alex he had a different kind of sense of humor. It's kind of sarcastic, but
Yeah.
I didn't mind because hell, that was Alex.
Hmm.
But yeah, we hung out at the bar, and one of my buddies, which I won't mention his name, but he was drunk that night, and while I was sitting there at the bar, sitting with Alex, having a chat, and then so my friend comes over, and he kind of slurs, and then gets into Alex's face, and then comes up to him, and I don't know what he said previous to this statement that I'll never forget. But he goes to Alex and he tells Alex, he goes, you know what, your singer sounds like a mosquito. And I look at him and I'm like, oh man, you didn't just say that to Alex. And I don't remember, but I think Alex's response, which was a good one, was I think he said something like, yeah, a lot of people say that. So I think he just kind of brushed it off, but
Yeah.
I was
Well,
I was I was a little embarrassed for my friend to come over and say something like that to him. But
yeah. Well, he's Canadian, so he has to be polite. Jeff
yeah.
K's got a question or comment. He said, "Just wanted to say Brian Spalding is a super nice guy. Excuse me, and it's been a joy when he joins some of the chats in the guitar community. Mahalo, Brian."
Oh yeah, mahalo.
That's from Jeff K. Yeah,
Oh, thanks
and
a lot, man.
real quick, you had an ACDC story.
Oh, that's kind of a long one. I could squeeze it down.
Well, we
Well,
got a bit
maybe
of
maybe
time.
maybe save that for next time because
Next
that's kind of
time,
a
okay.
yeah.
There you go. There's your cliffhanger, folks. You want to hear the ACDC story? You gotta wait till next time. Okay, let
And the
me.
and the Judas Priest story too.
Oh, Judith. Oh man,
It's a long one.
that one I want to hear now. Okay, all right. Okay, so yeah, oh, Hugh Caldwell is asking, how did how do you pronounce it? Flamental,
Flametal, flametal. There's just flaw and metal.
Flamental. Okay, how
Yeah,
did
flametal.
Flamental come about? That's Hugh's question.
Right. So I try to make this super short. So I met Ben Woods at the rehearsal space that we rehearsed at, which was at in Oakland. Um, Testament rehearsed there. Death Angel. Our studio's next door to Death Angel's rehearsal. They would come by and check out our rehearsals. But I tried out for Ben because he had a boombox where he was playing his music, and he said he was auditioning guitar players. And when I heard the guitar player that he had on his boombox, I could tell it was Marty Friedman because he had Marty Friedman guest on his demo. And so
Right.
I told Ben, I told him, man, I know this guy's guitar playing like the back of my hand. And I think Ben kind of brushed me off at the time, but got his, uh, I got a hold of his music, Ben's music, studied it for about a week, went back to his place and played most of his music just like note for note. And at that point, he was like, man, you got to join my band. And that's how Flametal started. And I
Cool.
believe that was in 2004, I think, or could have
Oh,
been 2002.
it's a long time ago now.
Yeah, oh yeah. And we're still going to be writing, so.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. Was there any last things you wanted to mention, Brian, before we wrap this up?
No, I'm just, pretty grateful for you, Metalhead Hippie, Johnny Bean, Lori's Mishmash, and all of people. inside of that entire community, great people to hang out with, and um, yeah, I'm just appreciative of everything that I've gotten out of it. If I maybe I contributed, but a lot of times I get a lot out of it. So, but
No,
especially
you
with the
definitely.
friendships and interactions.
Yeah, no, you definitely contribute to it, and it's an absolute honor to have you on, and we will do this again if you're cool with that. Maybe
Yeah,
we'll give it a few weeks here, maybe a month, and maybe
absolutely.
tie up some of these loose ends.
Yeah,
I
and
want to thank.
I'm gonna be on the Electric British Blues and 51
Oh,
50
Andrew.
show.
Okay,
Yeah, with
cool.
Andrew, and that's on Friday.
Check that out Friday night, folks.
Yeah,
Uh, hang on. Yeah, yeah. So check that. Do you know what time? Well, I guess your time. You're 6 hours behind me, right?
right. So for me, it'll be 7 o'clock my time,
Okay. So that's like 2 a.m. Eastern, something like that. One or
right?
two
And for those guys in New Zealand and England, it's
early morning.
I forget. Yeah,
Yeah, early morning for England, and I think New Zealand it's early afternoon or so. I don't know. It's it's too hard to keep track of all these friggin' time zones. But anyways, I want to thank Brian for being on. This was a lot of fun. I want to thank everybody for joining us and checking out the show and your comments. And again, thank you so much for watching the Hack Show week in week out. I really appreciate the support. Next week, I have another very special guest, somebody who is a good friend of mine, has been on the show many times before, and I'm glad to have him back. I have Cheddar Kong Pao is going to be on the show with me next week, so make sure you check out that show. Folks, have a great week. Also, Saturday night at 10 p.m., I will be doing a hack hangout. Some of you really like me doing those things, so I'll be doing one again this Saturday night. So check that out. And yeah, if I don't see you, have a fantastic week. Brian, hang on for a second, and we will catch you all very shortly. All
all
right, let
right.
me get this going.
Thanks a lot, folks.
Okay,
Thank you,
cheers.
Hack.